it really does seem like after a decade, people are finally figuring out who Bernie Sanders is and getting wise to his tomfoolery and the shit he's been stirring. Literally, he has been the wooden spoon in a cauldron of edgelord, left-wing intolerance and bigotry. He has normalized or at least been a outpost for centering the wants and needs of fairly well-off white people in the Democratic Party. His entire movement is a rejection of the salience of people's identity and experiences, and I have almost always found him to be disgusting. Very early on when he began running for president, I liked him, and I remember in the first debate with Hillary Clinton, the misogynistic way that he treated her during that debate drove me up the wall. And people have been hoodwinked by this man for years and years. He is literally the dictionary definition of white mediocrity. He spent the first half of his life literally being a bum by choice. He's a deadbeat dad. He's never accomplished anything other than giving some speeches. And here's the hot take here. Here's the big hot take. There would be no Bernie Sanders if it wasn't for the internet. He is basically only an internet sensation. He does not have any substantive accomplishments. He has no relationships with other legislators or leaders, world leaders, American leaders, Vermont leaders, where he's from. He has no accomplishments to speak for in his entire life. And y'all got tricked, and hopefully you figured it out now.
You're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
You're gay, that's fine, who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on? Are you going to stand with working families? Are you going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage or not? Are you going to fight to guarantee health care to all people or not? Are you going to demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share of taxes or not? Those are the issues. And no one cares what color you are, what your gender is, et cetera, et cetera.
Somebody in my life used to be a major Bernie bro in 2016, and now they're like hardcore Trumper. So after seeing that one podcast clip of Bernie, everything makes sense. The pipeline makes sense. Bernie bro to Trumper makes perfect sense.
I made a video a while back saying Bernie Sanders is fucking racist. I was like, no, absolutely not. No, he's not. No, he's not. And then he just went on the podcast and doubled down on his fucking racism and proving that he cares more about class issues versus race and class issues. Because, he's from fucking Vermont. 99.99999% white people. He's only represented white people. So...
Remember when Pete Buttigieg called Bernie Sanders out to his face on the debate stage in 2020?
But leadership is about what you draw out of people. It's about how you inspire people to act. And right now we're in this toxic political environment. Leadership isn't just about policy. I think, at least in broad terms, we're largely pulling in the same direction on policy. But leadership is also about how you motivate people to treat other people. And I think you have to accept some responsibility and ask yourself what it is about your campaign in particular that seems to be motivating this behavior more than others. Because in order to turn the page on the Trump era, we're going to need a president, not just a candidate who can win,
I have an idea of how we can.
As a early supporter of Pete going back to 2019, I must say I feel completely vindicated.
Bernie lost because he is a career politician who has done very little in his career to actually mitigate the harm caused to black and brown people.
Bernie doesn't actually want to help black and brown people, and I don't think Bernie even believes in reparations. So how can we even trust a loser like that when he doesn't believe in restorative justice? Another reason why Bernie lost is that Bernie is not a Democrat, and he was running to be king of the Democrats. So, of course, the Democrats wouldn't be supporting him in that way. But again, Bernie doesn't help black people, so why would I care about what he has to say or what he wants to do? Another thing, I saw that you love Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper is a transphobe. So, you like a racist president and you like a transphobic washed up hack. Sucks to suck, I guess.
I think my favorite thing that's going on right now, that's happening, is watching white people crash out. And that comes from like all sides of the spectrum, like liberals, leftists, MAGA, just like watching everybody individually crash out and say out loud, hey, I actually don't like people of color. I don't like black people. I don't like none of y'all. I just had to like put on a smile and like tolerate y'all so I could get what I want. But like, on God, I don't like none of y'all. Because I think it's funny, like when you look at what Bernie just said on Andrew Schultz's show, like first of all, he's on Andrew Schultz's show. That should indicate something is wrong. But like, I never liked Bernie. I liked him to a degree in terms of what he used to talk about back in 2016. I was like, oh yeah, I actually like some of his policy points, like some of the things he wants to change. I can't be mad at certain things that'll benefit the children, the hungry, the poor. Like, why would I be mad at that? But also, I knew that man was a white man. That's a white man. That's a white man, right? Like, I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I feel, if anything, vindicated. Because if I had come out back then and said out loud, like, like, I like what he has to say, like, for real, but, like, that's a white man. I feel vindicated because he just went on Andrew Schultz's show and said some white man ass shit. Like, he basically said he don't really vibe with people of color and marginalized groups and LGBTQ. Like, he was like, I don't care about all of that. And I'm like, period, poo. I never thought you did. I thought it was just to get people on your side. I never thought you did. And now people are saying he's grifting. I don't think he's grifting. I think Bernie bros have always been Bernie bros. Like, they're like, what about the men? They're leaving out the white men. They're making them feel embarrassed and ashamed. Because men in general, not just white men, but men in general should be ashamed of themselves. Like, the shit that y'all do is insane. The dating scene is terrible right now because men do not have any self-control, any self-preservation even. Like, you don't even know how to lie well. And you're rude, insulting, and expecting something from a stranger that one would garner from a wife or a long-term girlfriend. And you're upset that you're not getting it. It's unhinged behavior. It is actually, you should be ashamed of yourself. Actually, intercourse should not come that easy to you because it's strange and unusual behavior. But I digress. This idea that men are oppressed all of a sudden or are now all of a sudden a marginalized group and nobody cares about them. We are literally, this is a society quite literally built by and for men. Even the idea behind boys, the system is not made for boys to succeed in school. The schools themselves are specifically created for the boys in question. Like, women have only been able to be in school and have all their rights intact for the last 70 years. I mean, some of them are getting stripped, but for like the last 50 to 70 years. And you're upset in the last 50 to 70 years, women have taken that opportunity to become the best of the best. Like, women did everything they could to succeed in spite of all the obstacles and barriers in front of them. And now we have to hear that because Kamala Harris ran for president, all of a sudden nobody was thinking about the white man or the men. Like I said, I feel vindicated. It's actually not surprising. Like, what they said, the Overton window moves. I hope I'm saying that right. Honestly, if I'm not, you feel free to correct me in the comment section. I don't actually like to get things wrong. I don't mind to be corrected. But the Overton window is shifted. Now everybody's hyper conservative. Now the leftists and liberals are being equally conservative, saying, don't forget about white men. If we had them on our side, they would vote. That has never been the case. We can't even get white women to do it. I'm not bugging white men. Let them be what they are. Honest to God, I am not living in some weird delusional version of America. Okay? Most of us just want to be able to buy a house, not be harassed by police, save money for retirement and our kids' future, and afford to have a good life, maybe take a vacation once or twice, and live under good policy making where children don't starve, people don't go homeless and hungry and suffer and remain uneducated. People are asking really for the bare minimum, and both sides are just like, put the woman back in the kitchen. And I hate the blacks. Like, again, I cannot even be offended because that Bernie is a white man. Like,
so I've seen a whole bunch of quote unquote liberal white men come online talking about somehow the Democrats need to gear towards not making white men feel so bad. Last I checked, white men, well, the majority of white men haven't voted Democrats since what, the civil rights era. So this whole idea that we need to make white men more comfortable and that's gonna help us win an election is BS. Like, seriously, Todd? Who's Todd? Who would make to feel Todd comfortable? Todd?
Why are you all acting like you're surprised about Bernie Sanders? What the fuck do you think Bernie Sanders meant all those times that he talked about the white working class, working class white people? Bernie Sanders gives a fuck about white people. That's why he always talks about white people. And so now he gets on this podcast and he talks about identity politics, this, that, and the fucking third. It's not any different than anything he's ever fucking said. And black women have been trying to tell you all that Bernie Sanders is a fucking racist. But for all of you people that are out there worried, is Bernie Sanders going to be the next president, blah, 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 blah? The answer is fuck no. He's not. Bernie Sanders will never be the president of the United States. Do you want to know why? Because black women are not going to fucking vote for him. We peeped that shit a long fucking time ago, told you all a long fucking time ago. Ya fucking Bernie bros pulled one hell of a fucking stunt because you knew we weren't going to vote for him. So what did you all do? Y'all went and voted for Trump. We are not surprised by your behavior either. Black women, clock your shit. We gonna stay clocking your shit. And we are not voting for Bernie Sanders. So hang your happy hat right the fuck up. It's never gonna happen.
Bernie Sanders did not march with Martin Luther King Jr. Let's stop that. There is no verifiable evidence that he marched with MLK. He was at the I Have a Dream speech and did some of the protests there, but most of his protests were in Chicago regarding desegregation. We have to remember that we were never desegregated. We are still segregated to this day. Second, we have to remember what they called desegregation, which it really wasn't, benefited non-black people, not black people. We were not then given the same work opportunities. We were not then given the same housing opportunities. No, we were not removed from the hoods. In fact, they got worse. What they did was remove signs and then proceed to behave the exact same way towards us that they always did. What they did was remove signs and then beat us in public and ostracize us and then off us for attempting to live this desegregation so-called dream. So when you understand that Bernie Sanders allowed the rumor that he marched with MLK to continue, and when you understand that the so-called desegregation benefited non-black people and not black people, then you understand why Bernie Sanders said what he said. And when you understand that 80% of Jews in the South owned slaves, you understand that it was Jewish bankers who allowed for black enslaved people to be used as collateral and who participated in the transatlantic slave trade, then you understand why Bernie Sanders said what he said. We'll try to tell you that their involvement in the transatlantic slave trade is a myth when really it is not. What they do is try to downplay it because there weren't as many Jews over here. Well, of course it was mostly Christians and white people, as it were. But when you start understanding the mindset of people, of these different groups, then you will start to understand why they react and say the things that they say, and you won't be so surprised. Toodaloo.
I'm just going to say I feel personally vindicated because I said back in 2016 that Bernie was bullshit. And the reason was because of Bernie Bros. Do you remember them? How fucking obnoxious they were and how awful they were and how much they hated women? It's like any guy that was going to let people campaign for him in the way that Bernie Bros did in 2016, and then didn't fucking fix anything between 2016 and 2020. Ran again with the same bullshit because he's not actually good or talented. It's just that we don't have any progressives in America. So like any little glimmer of it, we're like, oh wow, this guy's amazing. He's not amazing. He's never been amazing. He's been like, here's baseline, like, decent human center. He's been a little left, right? Like, just not like a lot. And always will default to being a white man first, which is why he was never going to lead us out of this shit. Because white men benefit the most from it, guys. Like this, come on. We're shocked. We're shocked that an old white guy acts like an old white guy? Ugh. Shocking, wow. Anyway, okay.
I've been saying for a long time that there is not a big leap between Bernie Sanders and MAGA. Their messaging is for the exact same audience. It is. Like many other Democrats, like pretty much all politicians, they are more concerned with this idea that we need to win back a certain type of voter, as opposed to uplifting and empowering the voices of the people who have been supporting their party unquestionably for many, many years. You see, Bernie Sanders does not think identity politics is something that is worth dealing with because he is somebody who benefits from the social hierarchy. Now, he has continuously branded himself as a fighter for the working class, a fighter for the American people, a fighter against oligarchy, all of those things. But in that, what he absolutely never does, what he has never done, even back when he was running in 2016, when I believe he probably should have been the candidate that was chosen out of the Democratic Party. What he has never done is honor or validate the voices of the oppressed. You see, Bernie Sanders has his reputation of standing up for human rights. You know, we've all seen the pictures of when he was younger and he was being arrested by police, and everybody goes, see, he's been fighting for the same things for so many years. But what he's always done is say, these things are a problem, but we can't pay attention to them right now. The racial injustice, the social inequality, we can't spend too much time on that. We can talk about it, but we can't spend too much time on that. Ultimately, what he does is push those concerns, push those feelings aside in order to accomplish his true agenda, which happens to be winning votes. But I keep saying it, and a lot of people keep saying it, if the goal of the Democratic Party is winning votes, if that's all they care about are winning votes and getting their seats back, they will not effectively change anything. In fact, what will happen is they will lose more in the future because you're not making any changes by engaging in the same behavior or coddling that behavior or minimizing that behavior. You're not really standing up for the little guy when you get in front of a camera and you say, man, those things don't matter. It was all a conspiracy to work against me. That type of rhetoric is the same stuff that we hear from the Orange Man. That type of rhetoric is the same stuff that we hear from MAGA. And that's why I've always said there is a very, very thin line between the Bernie Bros and the Red Hats. I understand this reaction. I absolutely do. I know not everybody's going to agree with my take on Bernie Sanders. You know, I understand because he represents something that Americans desperately need right now. Americans desperately need hope. Americans desperately need to believe that there is a better tomorrow. And Bernie Sanders does preach that there should be a better tomorrow. There should be a better life for people who do not already have all of the resources and all of the advantages at their disposal. But the point that I'm trying to make is also highlighted in the video that I tagged in the description. There is an apathy that people are very willing to engage in when it comes to marginalized communities, specifically Black and brown communities. That apathy creeps in even for those who call themselves allies, even for those who stand on business for years. Because whether you like it or not, if you're not a part of these communities, if you're not Black, if you're not Latino, if you're not disabled, if you're not in the LGBT community, if you are just a standard YT American, there is absolutely a certain level to which you can truly empathize with what is going on. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, even if you have all of the best intentions, even if you believe that everybody around you has very toxic ideologies and are very prejudiced, unfortunately, in this country, you are vastly outnumbered by people who do not feel as affected by those things. This does not make them all bad people. This does not make you a bad person, but there is a willingness to sort of push these issues to the side so that everybody can just live a comfortable life. This is why the conversation of Black fatigue even started on this app. Do you realize that? The whole inspiration behind it were people feeling like there was a limit to how much they could care for these communities. And when I highlight these facts and I bring up Bernie Sanders, that is essentially what he's doing in this moment. He absolutely has been fighting for these things for decades. But even he has a limit. Even he can only empathize so much before he starts saying things like we need to look past those issues and focus on taking down the oligarchy. But this is a fact that will remain true. It will remain true in politics for the rest of time. The concept of identity politics being something that does not need to be addressed, it's ridiculous. Identity politics are absolutely what fuels all of politics. You're never going to be able to see effective policy change if you don't discuss identity politics. Because we all have a bias. Everybody has an inherent bias. And so these rules, these policies are put into place in order to level the playing field against people's inherent bias. To say that we don't want to address leveling the playing field, to say that we are not interested in discussing those things because we have a bigger agenda, that's a problem. Just like my take on boomers versus millennials being a conflict that will go on for a long time. I understand there are a lot of people who did not agree with that. I totally understand people won't agree with this opinion as well. But that's why we do this, right? We do this to have these discussions, because if we don't have these discussions, guess what? Nothing will change.
I'm so over Bernie Sanders. He should be in Boca Raton doing turtle time with Ramona right now, and instead he's saying identity politics are bad, as if he is a Fox News anchor. I know what's going on out there. See, white guys leverage identity politics as a demon, and also white women leverage identity politics as sort of like a reversal, as a gotcha, because they are used to being the one that is like listened to and not forced to concede in any way, shape, or you know what I mean, because they're, you know what I mean, and so they use this as a way to flip the tables when, you know, they look bad and they're behaving poorly, but because they are rambling about the common man and making you look like an elitist that doesn't care about the common man. Who's the common man? Okay, first of all, who is the average American? Right, when I think of them thinking of the common American, I imagine them imagining people, right? I do, because that's the way they behave. That's the way they move through life. Yeah, it's just sort of I had to delete the last bit of footage because my cats were screaming like a pair of banshees chasing each other around the office. So, oh, fun. I'm not worn out. That was not scripted. I am fine. Everything's fine. I'm okay. So let's circle back to Bernie Sanders' identity politics. My children distracted me. Why does he sound like a Fox News anchor host? Let's investigate that a little bit further. Fox News anchor hosts use identity politics as a way to reverse a situation in which they look bad and to regain power in the rhetorical space. Seems like it's being used in the same way by people like Bernie. And there's a reason you don't see AOC saying this nonsense, because she's not a person, right? And she doesn't, you know what I mean? I haven't heard her rack against identity politics the way that So many other men do. Yeah, and of course it's a man. If you've been here, if you've listened to me before, the average man that Bernie and David Hogg and all of them are referring to is a Christian man with conservative values. Or like right? Men are more conservative, and they're imagining men. All of them are imagining men. And if it's the common religion, then they're Christian, right? So all of these, like, you need to speak to the average person, are actually moving through life with such a pro-Christian bias, they don't even understand what's going on. But that's why you never see them talking about how Christianity unites the right, how conservative Christianity, I should be specific here. Liberation, theology, Christianity has nothing to do with right-wing people. But conservative Christianity, that basically unites the right. The Catholics and evangelicals used to hate each other, and then they united over wanting to force corpses to grow babies inside of them, right? Grow fetuses inside of them, whatever. They united because they thought it would be great if they removed Roe and made it. They're shaking hands, right? Over making a corpse, or over growing fetuses inside corpses. That's what's happened. Going all, it's a common man and an economic insecurity. No, it's about men going back to church and staying in church more than women because they want control. It's about control. And they are taking the lie that these men tell people and laundering it, I would say, because at least when right-wingers do it, they're not laundering it, they're propagating it. But when Bernie and Hassan Piker and all these other people that don't understand how flawed their concept of the average working person is, because it's flawed for reasons that I have expressed in this video, because they don't understand that, and Bernie in particular is this octogenarian who should not be running for re-election. He's 83, he should, again, Boca Raton with Ramona doing turtle time, not a U.S. senator. Like, come on, you are too old for this, buddy. And I think people are unwilling to see that when Bernie not being willing to leave the Senate when he's 83 bajillion years old is indicative of him not being that different from establishment Democrats. And in closing, I want to touch on why I have not badmouthed AOC here, and it's because she threads the needle so much better than any of these men do, because again, she's smarter than them. I'm pretty sure she's smarter than them, but also because her life experiences have led her to see through this little game that men play, that specifically men play. Make no mistake that we need to listen to the common working person is how you get to Gavin Newsom removing all the funding for the queer, like, whatever queer charity he revoked all the funding for. That's how you get that, because sometimes the common person isn't to be listened to. Sometimes you need to kind of like bulldoze them, but no, populists have to meet these douchebags where they're at. That's okay. If that isn't the laziest and griftiest way to do politics, then I don't know. But I do think it's maybe people do need to start understanding that like Bernie and AOC shouldn't be up there on the same stage, because AOC has I think she's been involved in triple the bills. That's right, triple the bills that Bernie has, and she has not been in the legislature that long. Bernie hasn't done that much, but you know, he yells a lot. I'm over him. He can go. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasperi, and all you fucking douchebags, like, get out of here. Get. Your common man thing is just a cultural Christianity, just filleting it. I'm not having it.